Charles, it's the Nonprofit Frauds Club. I guess those three are each technically considered first wives.
Yeah, I suppose.
I didn't see this movie, but it's a good choice for today's poster for the theme for the show.
Yeah, and it's great to begin 2022 with a story about charity fraud, because I think for those of us who are just learning about Sunday with Charles for the first time, it would really behoove you to go into the library and go back to some of the earlier episodes and watch as we take people through in gory detail, starting with the Clinton Foundation, a nuts and bolts, soup to nuts examination of how to commit fraud using a charity. And the thing about the land of charity, I believe the statistic is something like about 1/13, maybe 1/12 of total GDP is in the not-for-profit world.
That sounds huge to me.
It is gigantic. So total GDP is 22. Charitable activity is roughly $2 trillion per year. That's bigger than the gross domestic product of the entire country of Russia. And it's,
wow.
There are only a few.
Hang on. Charitable contributions from within the United States?
Charitable activity, because it's not simply contributions. You have large private foundations like the Gates Foundation that have may or may not make additional contributions in a year, but have huge income coming in, and Harvard has income coming in. And so you measure the income of all these charities, the value added by charities adds up, some estimate, to be about $2 trillion per year. And in this country, in the world, there are probably 10 countries that have GDP approaching $2 trillion out of 200 plus countries. So the not-for-profit sector is very, very large. And particularly when you when you find people who are involved in not-for-profit activity and fund management at the same time, watch out. That's George Soros. That's the Children's Investment Fund Foundation. Because that's, particularly if they're doing it from the same office, because there you get into the issue of are the people truly segregating the funds properly? Are they accounting for the time? If you've got one fund manager who's the head of the fund manager complex and he's also the head of the charity, how do you allocate his time? How do you allocate his expenses?
Right.
And then how do you whack up the office space appropriately? So good practice, I think, is to always, and I actually learned this from Peter Smith, rest his soul, because he claimed to have had a charity that he had to operate it in his office, and then he said, you know what, my accountant told me to take it out of the office so that there's no question of cross-subsidization and other issues. So,
well, wait, let's hang on that for a second, because Peter Smith has become more important recently. You and I have spoken about him literally for 5 years now, Charles. This subject came up on the first day that you and I met. You randomly received a phone call from Shane Harris that started this whole conversation about Peter Smith. Harris and the official story say that Peter Smith killed himself. You were surprised by that, seemed contradictory based on knowing him personally. And then Harris went on to report a bunch of stuff that was just directly contradictory to emails you had from Peter Smith that Harris was unaware of. And it came back around last week. This is what I'm getting to, Charles. The reason why I'm excited about this as today's topic is because, I don't really know much about Meghan Markle or her involvement in the royal family or whatever, but she's been brought to my attention coincidentally by a dust-up with some royalists and some social engineers. And it just caused me, I wouldn't have done this otherwise, it caused me to look at her involvement with charitable activity. And it caused me to realize, Charles, I didn't know about any of this stuff before you and I started working together. And you, of course, were very focused on looking at the Clinton Foundation at first. But as we have gone on and done all these different podcasts and things that we've done over the past 5 years, we've found so many nonprofit organizations that are engaged in the exact same type of crooked behavior, misuse of the nonprofit, et cetera. And it almost seems like it's most, if not all of them, it's as if You get into this nonprofit fraud club, and once you're there, you're home free.
Well, in particular, I think the ones that are most egregious, and I would hope if you and I can do this in an amateur basis, that somebody in the Federal Bureau of Let's Not Investigate Anything and other organizations would say, look, any charity that has the following warning signs, it is audited by BKD or an equivalent, right? It is engaged in international activity, operating from a U.S. base. In particular, it's engaged in poor countries where there is no law and order, where there is going to be a compelling case. Recently, for example, I had heard of this before, that Mother Teresa's charity, the Indian government has banned people from outside India sending money to this charity because it is such a fucking fraud.
Wow.
Because you take this case, you make the case that here's the starving brown people in the middle of sweltering India, covered in dirt and crap and whatever.
Whoa.
And
well, look at this.
Yeah.
Oh, something just went away. What does it say?
Sign in. Yeah.
Don't want that. Okay, sorry, here we go.
Yeah, and this is a good thing India is doing, because there's 7.5 billion people on the planet. There are a large number of older people. I don't know what the number would be today, whether it's 1 trillion people or whatever. And you're sitting there, your mother, my father, people who are getting on in years, and they think, we really should do something nice. And look at this story of Mother Teresa, Nobel Prize winner, her charity, let's send it some money. And all these fucking grifters typically inside the recipient country, but along the food chain, realize that here's a fantastic way to scam, like the concert promotion business, like the book publishing business, like the movie business.
Yeah.
Nobody knows how many tickets are sold. Nobody knows how much money is being sent towards these charities, and nobody can check.
Well, you also can't challenge it, because what you think is the stupidest movie or the worst song ever could be the most popular thing.
Right. So with charities, what people have learned is that when you go into the bank now, particularly after 9/11 and a clampdown on terrorist financing, you go into the bank now and say, look, I want to send $100,000 to invest.
Mother Teresa.
Well, no, to invest in this leveraged buyout fund in London. And you're going to get put through the ringer by your bank. I mean, where'd you come up with $100,000? Why would you do this? Tell me about this fund, all this kind of stuff. But you walk in the door to your bank and you say, I want to send $100,000 to Mother Teresa's charity before this comes along. And people will say, oh, God, can we put you on the cover of our annual report?
Right.
Let's see if we can't, get the bank to make a matching contribution or,
right.
Whatever.
And frankly, even you and I talking about it, somebody would think, you're terrible, that's Mother Teresa.
Right, and that's the essence of fraud. It's, you have just the willing suspension of disbelief, right? You say to yourself, now wait a minute. If Mother Teresa won the Nobel Prize, she got $1 million for that. She's still dead, but the people around her.
What'd she do with the million?
Right.
Yo, Mom.
Right. But the point is, there is enough money over there. And there are a lot of charities, as you can see. If they could shut down 5,000 charities in India,
right.
you wonder how many.
How many were there to begin with?
Right, and so.
She's Albanian. I don't think I knew that.
Yeah. Again, she's still dead, but and maybe she did good work over there. But very often, what happens is the selfless nun or the selfless charitable good actor is so selfless that they don't balance their checkbook and they don't check about their possessions, and they're the perfect person to rip off.
Take advantage of, right? How
right.
financially sophisticated could a nun from Albania be?
Probably not all that. Probably more than Joe Biden, but not
right.
that sophisticated. And so you have, any time I hear, like, for example, on television, I don't mean to make light of this, but they have I think it's the National Council for Christians and Jews, Yael Goldstein or something like that is this woman, and they have these pictures, Yael, they have these pictures of these elderly women who are supposedly some of the last remaining Holocaust survivors, and you do the math. I mean, are they 125 years old? I mean, it's like, how could these people...
Is this her?
Yeah, she's all over television, or you have the Cars for Kids thing, which goes on and on and on about send money in for cards for kids.
But kids don't need cars.
Well, it turns out that and they put these blonde, blue-eyed kids playing rock and roll music, and it turns out it goes to a Jewish camp, and in theory it goes to some Jewish camp in like upstate New York.
Jewish kids can drive.
but it's just, and the whole premise of it, you're going to give a car to a charity, and so what are they going to do with it? And how do you value the car, and how do you actually sell it?
Yeah, it sounds like more of a problem for them. What if they sell the car and there's a problem, and then like, what the hell? Oh, here we go. We see what they're doing with the cars. This is perfect. Yeah. How can this kid get to work without a car, Charles?
But so back in the area of what can government do for you? Now, you would think we're sitting here at HQ, and you've pumped out literally, I don't know, almost 5,000 podcasts now, or however many. It's like a large number. And I think they're high quality. We've learned from them. We're always trying to Kaizen improve them, at least you are. And we can't go. We have gone to Bosnia. We have gone to various and sundry places, but we can't on a regular basis go and check and see. Actually, it'd be pretty funny to pick a Clinton charity, Tanzania or someplace, and go visit it and see what's.
I would have done that absolutely prior to COVID
with a pith helmet and everything.
Not for fear of COVID. I just don't want to get on an airplane and deal with all that crap.
Once the Omicron reality busts the COVID myth, I think we could find ourselves in a place where we could travel again, and it would be really funny to go and visit one of these supposed Clinton charities and just ask around in the village. Like,
I guarantee it'll be like looking for the Obama library. People would be like, what?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Right.
That's not here.
But when you go back to charity land, so you're running a charity, and it is legitimate, frankly, if you're Paul Farmer and you deserve to take a salary because you're out there in Rwanda or Haiti or wherever, fine, take a salary. And then you take expenses, because you're traveling on the expense of the charity, that's fine too. But the problem becomes when you're doing that for 10 charities, or 3 charities.
Or if your salary is $400,000 or something
or
ridiculous.
more, which is on the Obama Foundation. The salaries are extremely high across the board, even this person and that person, other people. And so this when you say you're involved with a charity, I actually think that you should not. There should be a special provision in the IRS.
Not allowed to say it?
Well, in the IRS, there should be a special division, which where you would, if people cheat, they get executed on it. But where
executed
with prejudice, pay for view on TV. The audience gets to choose which way
Mussolini
the person gets
style.
executed. Like, do they get put into a shredder? Do they get in a juicer?
Do you know something? That would be the most popular show ever. Juicer!
But on a serious note, what you would have to do if you want to pick a number more than $1,000 to a charity, you have to do it anonymously. You can't be given credit for it, and the IRS will actually make sure that some schmuck isn't saying, "Well, I gave $10 million to a charity and didn't really do it." You have to have a mechanism to really track.
Because actually even just saying it does impart some benefit on you. It makes people think, what a nice person giving this charity.
Well, actually, that I believe is the Jewish...
Judaism, you're not supposed to...
It's a mitzvah, right? I mean, it's not a mitzvah if you...
keep it secret.
Right, exactly. Well, so I think that's very sensible. And so when you see the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, I mean, it should be called something else. The monopolists, want to suck
Trick to End the World Foundation.
Blood dry foundation, or I'm doing this so I can, find little kids to chase around the world. But this whole thing of, and the same is true, frankly, of a Yale and a Harvard and a Princeton and a Columbia. I mean, I would argue the premise of Yale and Harvard anyway, the reason that they were charities is they were set up to train ministers, specifically non-Catholic ministers, at a time when Catholics dominated as a percentage of the Christian population. So the theory was ministers aren't going to make money, so let's let this educational institution, which is training ministers and will dispatch ministers to preach the Christian faith throughout the colonies, let's cut them a break. And it's evolved from that to be now, I mean, at Harvard you can get a certificate in this and a certificate in that. You can get a law degree, which is not. I mean, people would happily pay a large amount of money to know that they could get into Harvard Law School
Right.
and graduate. And so when you start, when some rich dude or woman writes a $10 million check so daughter or son could go to Harvard Law School, that's clearly not a charity. And and Harvard Business
How about the
School,
Emmys?
well, nor is the Emmys, nor all these award things, nor these things where you give somebody a Pulitzer Prize and they go from being a schmuck to being somebody who's getting a
Lauded.
big contract. Well, no, a big publishing contract. You put on a Pulitzer Prize winner, and I'm sure my agent would tell me that your book was a first-time author, you get squat, and if you buy yourself a Pulitzer Prize, we'll get
$1 million
some back.
whatever.
We'll get some back out of it. So the whole area of charities needs to be, I think, looked at a lot more cynically. And in particular, the formula is when you get, take Elton John, for example, and I don't mean to piss all over him, but I mean...
He'd probably like that.
I don't even want to think about that. But Elton John and a number of these other famous rock musicians, I mean, Elton John's AIDS Foundation is a joke.
Why is that?
It gave money to the Clinton Foundation HIV/AIDS initiative, which didn't exist. And when you look through its filings, it's got the math doesn't make sense. And
He seems to like, is it an A or is it the 17th letter of the
I don't
alphabet?
know. I think it's an A. But and he's the kind of person, and frankly, most of these celebrities, very few of the celebrities are numerate. Or instinctively going to say, well, hey, man, why are we pricing our concert tickets that way? Why not this way? And, why does it cost so much money for my gala here? Who's this charitable, who's this catering firm, and why do we select them? And what happened to all the leftover liquor? I mean, nobody's looking carefully at Elton John's finances, I don't think.
That's not funny, actually. Somebody might order $200,000 worth of liquor and send $100,000 to a restaurant.
Well, that's standard, I think. Absolutely
Right.
standard. So this whole area, the biggest, as we've said from day one, the biggest trick in charity fraud is the one you will never see, and that is how much money actually went towards the charity.
Right.
So in the case of the Haiti fundraising exercise in 2010 after January 22nd, when the earthquake hit Haiti, nobody actually knows to this day how much money was raised. Some people say 10 billion, some people say 13 billion.
I hear people in Haiti say, where's the money?
And also, regularly in front of the Clinton Foundation yelling and screaming. And it's one thing to go and be AOC and, claim that the reason Republicans don't like her, other than she's economically illiterate and a communist, is that they can't date her. I mean, come on, you got 2 apartments, you got a boyfriend, you got a Tesla, you're set for life. You probably can always get some form of work one way or another. If worst case, you'll be a professor at Bard College or something like that later on in life. And that's not what she's dealing with are not tragedies. Haiti, on the other hand, you are born on one speck of dirt or water on this planet, one way or another. And you have no choice in that. Your parents decided to live in a certain place. That's where you're born. You're a national of Haiti. And, people in the poor people in this country should wake up every fucking day and thank God they were not born in Haiti.
It'd be way worse.
And whether you're white, black, or Hispanic, I mean, the situation in Haiti, from what I understand, it begins with the French colonization period, when they cut down most of the trees in Haiti. And what that did is it washed away a lot of the topsoil. And so
Why did they do that? To take the lumber?
To take the lumber and sell it. And that is, I've learned that actually from personal experience, that the damage you can do, if you own several hilltops.
Permanent, basically.
When you own a hilltop and you cut the trees down on the hilltop, and there's a lot of rain and snow in your area, the wash, I mean, the power of water going from 600 feet down to 200 feet just takes a lot of stuff with it. And to put topsoil back on a hillside is not so easy, even if you have all the money in the world and labor and all that kind of stuff. So it begins with the fact that the French screwed them, and then it's decades of slums the people migrate away from. There's nothing to live in the rural places, so they go into the slums in the city, and they accept corruption. It's been corrupt there forever. In fact, if you go and you look on Google, we could do it now, and look at contributing to Haiti, you'll see that there used to be, last I checked, there are multiple warning signs, I think, from the government of Haiti. Don't contribute to charities in Haiti. They're corrupt.
Wow.
Here's UNICEF, of course, is not like that. But there used to be, anyway, warnings. If you put up fraud, contribution to Haiti charity, fraud warning or something.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah. And this is as Bill is scamming.
Yeah.
Right?
They're like, well, we don't want to tell you who, but we've discovered there's some scams going on.
Right, I guess it was January 13th, not 22nd. But or 12th. But, this to me, to go and slap pictures of these thin Haitian boys and girls and men and women on glossy fundraising solicitations, be they sent by the mail or be they sent on the internet or, God forbid, radio and television ads, and then to steal that money is just so disgusting. I mean, it's the kind of thing that the only way to deal with people who do this kind of stuff is to humiliate them, is to make a spectacle of them, so that the next person who thinks about doing this will understand they're going to the juicer, or worse, the juicer or the rotisserie spit, or I don't know what it is, the acid bath.
The flambe. Julienne and then flambe.
Right.
That would be a great game show, Charles. Who wants to be a rotisserie?
That's right. And so each of these people, Meghan Markle, and it's quite common in the UK for members of the royal family to be patrons or patronesses or whatever the word is for charities. That's quite standard. They have, they'll have it. So I think Lady Diana,
land mines.
But she was on the board of multiple charities, including her own, as the honor. It's quite standard in England to do that. And there the model is you tend to have an expert who's supposedly an executive director who's fairly paid or perhaps overpaid to mind the charity, and they have a lot of it. The tradition of not-for-profit and non-governmental organization work in the UK is ancient, goes back centuries. So there is a set of standards that people should use. But I think the crooks very quickly figure out this is awesome.
Yeah.
We hear people who say, I don't take a salary. But
right.
Then how does Chelsea, for example, justify in a charity that's supposed to deal with the Clinton presidential records in Little Rock, how does the daughter have a chief of staff, an office suite, a retinue of people working for her in Midtown Manhattan? I mean, what the fuck is that all about? I mean, it has nothing to do with Little Rock. And the cost of a chief of staff, let's say that chief of staff is making $200,000, round numbers. That's the salary. Then you have the employer contribution for Social Security, and you have pension, and that person probably has business expenses that are funded by the charity. It's like $300,000 for one of these people. And the fact that she has these people handling her stuff and keeping her records for her gives her an office, so that leverages her ability to get these for-profit things that she gets, IAC, she's got $20 million worth of stock in that for being a director. And,
it's crazy.
And other things. And all of this, is just, I got no problem with an industrious person having 17 different jobs and paying taxes. That's fantastic.
That's hard to do.
Yeah, I got no problem. Well, I think you take actors in their prime when Jack Nicholson was working 4 to 6 movies a year, if that's what he was doing.
One at a time usually, though.
Huh?
One at a time.
Right, but serially, I guess you would start one and then you'd shoot in the course of 30 days or something, and then it would go into post-production, you'd do another one or whatever. And then he's also doing voiceovers and who knows what else. But Chelsea...
She likes Planet Hollywood, Charles. Why is that in Wikipedia?
She's on Planet Hollywood?
I think it just is that she likes to go there. Maybe the Captain Crunch fried chicken.
Well, in the My Life book, Bill gleefully recounts how when Chelsea was like in elementary school, she wouldn't want to say what her father did for a living. So one time the teacher asked everyone in the class, "What does your father do?" And she said, "My father operates a French fry machine at McDonald's."
What?
Something like that. And he thought that was hilarious. I mean, but I think it's pretty close to the truth. He's eating. And just to rag on her for a second, here she writes in 2003, the Global Fund to Fight AIDS, TB, and Malaria, a response to global threats, a part of a global future. This is a complete fraud, the Global Fund. I mean, how do you get a PhD in ignoring charity fraud, right? I mean, to me, this kind of stuff is, you're sitting there and there really ought to be, if there's going to be any kind of a G8 agreement on anything, there should be a G7 or G8 agreement on combating charity fraud. And you should sit down and you should say, listen, we have a problem. Campaigns are expensive. Everybody understands that. Charities are perfect ways to purchase influence and to send money across state lines and across national boundaries. We need to have a task force on charity scam artists, and we need to go through and put together the 100 most common charity scams, and then the people who are connected with these scams, and we need to profile them.
I think they need to prosecute them. I was just thinking about this. I forget who it was, probably that dope who thinks he's president, was saying that they're gonna, raise taxes and do all this other stuff. I was thinking, if they would just get the taxes from the tax-exempt things just that you and I have looked at, that'd be billions of dollars. Why don't we start there?
Tens of billions, hundreds of billions, if you add it all up.
Yeah, and it's the richest people, most famous, revered people who are stealing all this money from those of us who are working hard to pay taxes.
And then they're collecting honors for it. I mean, they're flying around the world. And isn't Hillary? She's one of the most admired people in the world.
Not in this apartment.
Not anymore. But the toe sucker, Dick Morris, the famous he got in trouble for sucking a prostitute's toes.
I didn't know about that.
Yeah, he got.
Oh my God, that's disgusting to even think of.
There's a picture of it, but. He is a reasonably astute commentator politically, and he is now saying that Michelle is the person to beat in 2024, and that Michelle could probably beat
Trump.
What does this say? Fan of walks in the woods and standing up for our democracy?
Oh my God. I mean, she's got to be the most nauseating person.
Yeah, onwardtogether.org, another fraud. Followed by Puck. Who is Puck?
I don't know. Probably somebody that I follow or follows me or something. That's telling you who this person is being followed by or followed. So now there was Hillary Clinton profile showing her nose. I mean, it's definitely her. It's just a very old picture. She's looking forward or looking ahead to 2022 with a picture that's about 40 years old.
But look at the size of her mouth there. Okay. Now go to the other picture. Suddenly her mouth is increased in size, right?
Well,
here in the Twitter inset picture. Look at that. Yeah. Put a hook in that, and then it's huge, right? And then here it's tiny.
I mean, I don't know what to say. To me, this is a weird picture to post because it's just obviously such an old picture. Why are you looking forward posting an old picture? It reminds me of that New York Post cover where Ghislaine Maxwell was an In-N-Out Burger, and they posted this photo of her, which was just so obviously retouched, replaced with a picture of her at least 10 or 20 years younger than she is at the time that the photo was taken. It's very strange.
What's the date of that picture? I mean, of that
2019, I'm pretty sure this was. August 2019.
So he had just been found?
He had just been arrested. I don't know, when did he die? Or when was he allegedly dead?
I thought he was dead right around then.
Maybe that's right. This says, you're right, that was a week after. August 10, 2019 is when he allegedly died. August 19th, this is published. And I don't know
August 15th.
Sorry, August 15th, right, just 5 days later.
Don't look too closely at the meat in the burger.
Yeah, I don't like In-N-Out Burger
But I'm
before.
just saying, you know, is it Epstein?
I don't like In-N-Out Burger before they threatened to sue me, because what happened, Charles, is I called In-N-Out Burger, corporate, spoke to them. I used to live like 2 blocks from this In-N-Out restaurant, and I called them and said, well, can you show us the security footage from your security camera outside? Because it's unclear if she was ever at the restaurant or if she was there in August or what. People have looked at movie posters and various ads in the background. Her face has obviously changed. The metadata in this photograph revealed that it was not taken by a bystander with a cell phone, as the article claimed, but it was taken by a Canon or a Nikon camera, I can't remember, by Leah Safian, a woman who's a lawyer who's supposedly one of Ghislaine Maxwell's lawyers, who I think I saw in a photograph down at Pearl Street during the trial. So it'd be very interesting to know what was going on with this whole Photoshop deception in the New York Post if Leah Safian is still Ghislaine Maxwell's lawyer. Yeah. And it's also interesting to see when, you know, criminals who are involved in charity fraud, which she also is through the Terramar Foundation.
And the Clinton Global Initiative.
And the Clinton Global Initiative. I just wonder if they're not sending steganographic messages by posting these dramatically younger pictures of themselves. I don't know.
Can we, I mean, this woman is like a villain in a horror movie who will just not go away. I mean, the idea that in 2022 we should be worried about whether this idiot wants to be president of the United States. I mean, it's kind of like me, and thankfully long ago, you know, I realized I would never be a ballet dancer or something, like me saying, God damn it, I want to headline the next, you know, whatever the Bolshoi Ballet. I want to be, you know, go to St. Petersburg and I want to do, you know, be in the, whatever it is, the Nutcracker, with, you know, and people would say, Charles, look, I mean, forget it. You can barely walk. I mean, you know, you certainly can't do a plie.
Well, I showed you the letter from the Academy of Television Arts and Sciences when they declined to give me an Academy Award for the implementation of a quarter wave retarder in a stereoscopic beam splitter, right? I think I showed you that.
Yeah.
I'd like to now read you, Charles, my acceptance speech.
That's right.
That I would have given.
You could give a master class in this?
Oh, exactly.
You could. You could do a master class in being an asshole.
Well, she's qualified.
Exactly. But so we look at, you know, the three of them. I mean, in the case of Meghan Markle and Harry, I will cut Harry an enormous amount of slack, because it was a tragedy. The way he was raised in a loveless marriage, questions about who his father was, then to have, you know, to be followed. I mean, yes, he never had to worry about money and had all kinds of privileges, but that it's still, you know, when you're not close with your father, your mother's dead.
Growing up in the spotlight and everything.
And there were all these negative questions about, you know, your father likes to talk to plants and has the IQ of a carrot, and who knows how smart, you know, Princess Di was, and apples don't fall far from the tree when DNA, you know, is all considered. And so you think, and he's the second child, he's never going to be king. So you could imagine that he would be a monumental fuck-up.
Which is him? This one?
The other one. Yeah. Oh, maybe not, actually.
This looks like him.
That does look like him, and the other one looks...
This looks more like William.
Yeah, I think you're right. This could be Harry, yeah. But anyway, and...
cute kids.
Cute enough kids, and, you know, you would expect both of them to be fuck-ups. I mean, Harry at least went into the military and actually flew, I think, helicopters to Afghanistan. I mean,
wow.
He put his life on the line, frankly. So all that being said, to you know, I think when you're in, as they call it, the firm, and you're second in line to be the King of England someday.
They call the royal family the firm?
Yeah. And you just suck it up. I mean, just say, look, it's better than being second in line to be a crack addict. I mean, it's, you know, it's...
What if it's the smartest crack addict Joe Biden knows?
Right, exactly. That's Hunter, his firm, the crooked firm. But if you're going to then renounce that, if you're going to give up your title, or at least give up your royal duties for a woman who you in theory are in love with, you shouldn't then go to like Grift Central to LA and decide and hook up with all of these grifter Hollywood types and pretend that you're involved in charity land when you're trying to I believe Harry called up the head of Disney or something like that, and when he got there, and because he can call anybody he wants to get through.
No, they met him at a party, and it was Bob Iger, and he asked Bob Iger if Meghan Markle could have a role as a voice in an animated Disney movie, and then they gave her the role, and she said, well, instead of paying me $3 million, which sounds like a huge salary, Disney is famous for paying very little for voiceover, but she was apparently going to give the $3 million to this Elephants Without Borders. I didn't know anything about this until it all came out.
Are there any elephants with borders? I mean, most elephants they don't say, "Well, I'm sorry, I put my passport in my trunk."
Yeah, the elephant.
It's like the fuck the border. I'm just going to
Could
go
you
right
imagine COVID testing an elephant to see if it could come into New York? They need a long Q-tip. But Charles, I have observed the master, and although I can't hold the candle, I was able to use some of those skills to get the EIN number for this Elephants Without Borders. And then searching for that, it brought me to something called Elephant Planet, which suspiciously had the same directors, two of which live in the same residential house in Massachusetts, and the thing collected a grand total of $19 in 2019.
Is that in one whole month or one whole year?
Well, what I was going to say is if your charity is making $19 a year, maybe what you should do is work at McDonald's for 2 hours and then take the rest of the year off and give $30 to the charity, and you've almost doubled your output there. But it just seemed to me, I've never been involved in a charity, but it seems to me that if I had a business that couldn't make $19 in a year, 2 years later, how would that business, practically speaking, be prepared to properly accept $3 million?
Well, are we sure it's the right entity? I mean,
I'm happy to check it again.
Let's go take a look. I mean, first thing I would do is let's go into ProPublica Nonprofit Explorer Advanced.
That's exactly what I did.
And well, let's also see how many charities Meghan Markle is associated with by punching in to here, Meghan Markle. Let's see if she's.
But the way that they get you, Charles, is that now she's registered as
Meghan,
Duchess of.
It's without a T.
Sussex. Is it?
Yeah.
Nothing.
All right, how about Duchess of Sussex?
Well, her name wasn't on the charity as a director. She was just giving money to it. Why don't I show you how I found it, and then you can tell me, let's see, what did I do? The thing was called, let's just first search. I'm pretty sure it was Elephants Without Borders. This is interesting. Why have they remained silent about receiving donations from Disney or Meghan Markle from the Disney documentary, despite Markle's PR saying the charity was supposed to receive the proceeds?
There you got to hit that question. Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, no one's answered it. Quora is just a site where people ask and answer questions. But basically, this Elephants Without Borders.
Okay, that's a Botswana charity, it says, okay?
Yes.
So let's look
But wait, it's interesting because it's a Botswana charity.
Let's see the home. Let's see About Us. Okay, our team. Let's see our team, first of all. It's probably a bunch of scruffies.
2 people in Massachusetts. This guy's in Botswana.
PhD.
But he's in Botswana.
Wait. It says he's in Motswana.
Oh.
What's that? Was the first.
What is Motswana?
Has been studied. It says it was the first Motswana. What does that mean?
I don't know. Maybe somebody not from Botswana who is there.
Who's Kelly? Kelly Landon.
Here's what I did. I was able to say,
Coexistence and education coordinator. Can I just see all the people? Tempe Adams, I'm just wondering if I've heard of any of these people. Izzy Mizwe.
Well, this is probably in Botswana.
Providence Ndana. Scott Schlossberg. Wonder if he's related to Caroline Kennedy's husband. Okay, let's go back into the index and see if they have a 990 here.
Here we've got their Elephants Without Borders.
All right, let's look at that.
Right?
Yeah.
So, ProPublica, where did I put that? Let's get another one here.
We should also look at it in New York. Let's see.
All right, so here, Advanced Search, ProPublica. We take the EIN, we put it in here, and we get Elephants Without Borders.
Okay, where is its address? Buffalo, New York, it says.
See, that's weird, because I used that same EIN to find elephant.
Okay, and this says 210,000 in revenue.
Let's just see what we get. Elephants Without Borders, Nonprofit Explorer, Elephant Planet, EIN. SaveTheElephants.org. I should have.
Well, let's.
Where would you like me to go? You drive it.
Let's go. Let's take this entity and let's look at New York State. Let's look in.
Yeah.
NYS Charity Bureau search. And we're also going to do a little bit on the Clinton Foundation too. So just.
Yep. Massachusetts would be probably useful as well, because that's where I found it as having the same EIN as Elephant.
So you won't be able to put that whole EIN. Okay.
(0595-376).
Okay, now this being a New York corporation, it definitely should be registered in New York. Let's see if it is. Okay, yeah. Okay, notice it's DBA. Now, that in New York, if you want to do a DBA, you've got to register in every county where you want to use the DBA. So let's see what they have shown here. Documents available, we got bylaws, we got a certificate of incorporation, we have the application, and we have a determination letter. So we've got a fair amount of stuff. The fact that the filings don't indicate a date means this could be under investigation. Typically, it's not cleared unless it shows the date. So 19, 20, and 21, for some reason, they have these could be amended filings. But let's look the IRS. Let's look at the certificate of incorporation. We start there because that's the organizational test. You pass or fail being a charity on this. Okay, this is just a DBA, Grand Island, New York, wherever that is. This is South Marlin Road, Elephants and Marlins. This is just saying that we're doing under the EWB Inc. is the entity, and it's, based in the county of Erie, wherever this is, and executed the 2nd of April 2008. Here's your PhD, Michael Chase. And here's the incorporation certificate. And this is an incorporation certificate. These are not articles of incorporation. This is just saying that I've filed. Let's see what they filed. Okay, name. Okay, so
EWB.
It's to be established. Where's it not? Is to be established. So it's not yet established, with the aim of promoting environmental conservation resources. That's not necessarily charitable. Conducting research on wildlife species, and to assist local communities. This first paragraph is not necessarily charitable. But then they go on, they say, it's organized exclusively for charitable
Purposes?
What's next?
I'm
religious.
Oh, does it say religious?
Yeah.
What's with that?
Okay, the religion of elephants. Okay. This basically says 501c3. So let's keep on going through it and see if there's any other fun stuff. This is just one incorporator doing this, and incorporated in 2008. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So now let's go back into the index. And let's look at the IRS determination letter and see what type of entity. Okay, this is, 170B1A6. The Articles of Incorporation do not define a 170B1A6, a public charity. It says a 501c3. It doesn't limit it just to 170B1A6 activities or purposes. And here it's retroactive back to February 27th, 2008. When were the Articles of Incorporation filed? I thought it was the 6th of February. 22nd. Okay, so why would it be retroactive only to the 27th? Let's look at the application for tax exemption now. Here. And this is David Atkin is the person doing it. Says here you were formed on the 5th of February 2008. So why retroactive to the 27th? What's with the 22 days in 2008? That's unusual. So not formed under the laws of a foreign country, I think we're going to discover that's bullshit. Keep on going. Let's just see. I want to see the narrative description. It may or may not be attached. We'll see if, we've got 68 pages, so it's probably attached. Let's go into the attachments. What's this? Yeah, here we go. Unenrolled. This is people in Oregon are helping out with this. Okay, this is, it was incorporated on February 5th. I mean, they're trying to take it somewhat seriously.
There was this weird thing, though, that I ran into Elephant Planet that was...
Let's just keep going through here, and then we'll go to... I just want to run this to ground. Okay, the board, up here, it worked to improve designing the bylaws. The bylaws weren't adopted until January 7th, so the same problem as the Clinton Foundation. They were not actually organized on February 5th, and they weren't, in theory, organized until January 7th, which is disqualifying. Okay, and here they're changing, they're tightening up the exempt purposes definition, but they don't amend the articles. Here in this section. They have programs. They're going to partner with governmental agencies.
Wait, well, I thought they're helping elephants. Why are they concerned with human well-being?
I don't know. Rural Africans. Okay, this is going to be...
I thought they're helping elephants.
It's now going to be conducted in Angola, Botswana, Namibia, Zambia, and Zimbabwe. I want to get to who the people are. Okay. Oh, wait, here's what they say they're going to do. Wildlife aerial surveys, conservation studies, humanitarian social enrichment programs.
What do elephants have to do with that?
Nothing.
Seems to me it should be just like helping elephants.
Well, it's kind of like Eco Health Alliance. It started out, wildlife conservation, then it's going to be torturing little dogs.
Yeah, maybe like lawsuits against poachers and, veterinarians for elephants. Like what? Food for elephants? What can you do to help elephants?
Just because you write a sentence, this organization complies with all state and federal laws, doesn't mean it's true.
Right.
But it's nice boilerplate to put in here, saying you can't do shit. All right, get to the point of like who your people are. All right, here we go. All right, here's a guy in Grand Island, Driftwood Court. So this could be a boyfriend and girlfriend living in the same location. Doesn't sound to me like a public charity.
Well, see, the other thing that's interesting is, so this guy's name is Michael Chase, right?
Yeah, and we also want to Google 8 Driftwood Court when we get around to it and see what kind of a structure it is.
Yeah.
Grand Island. But let's keep going down through this. We'll bury the all right. There's attachment. We'll see, if it's cricket or not. And I'm going to bet that once we go through this, we're going to discover in the balance, we're going to see fundraising solicitations here. Let's just go quickly through it. I don't think anything's going to leap out of the page here. This is all boilerplate crap. We want to get to the portion of, what did they do beforehand?
Oh, should we go back earlier in the document?
No. Keep going.
Charitable.
What is this? Is the same title again? Same thing about breaking things up again? Why are they repeating this?
That's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. Just type it again, see if anybody notices.
Right, make it look thicker. Boy, there's a lot of stuff here.
It's the same thing.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, we put 3 copies of it in.
Well, let's put it in triplicate.
All right. Power of attorney. So they have a lawyer or somebody try to put this thing in using a power of attorney. Is that the end of it?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go back to the index.
But, do you want to see this one?
Which one?
Well, I'll have to go back to what I was researching yesterday to figure out how I got to this, but I think it somehow had the same EIN, not this one that we're looking at now.
Now it doesn't.
Now this is Elephant Planet.
With a different EIN.
With a different EIN, but this EIN was somehow associated with Elephants Without Borders, and...
Curtis, these are different. Oh, Michael
No,
Chase.
there's Michael Chase. That's what I mean. So this guy is still associated with this. And these two people were living in the same address, or both registered to this 128 Mountain Road in Greenfield, Massachusetts.
With a zip code that is not a zip code.
I think if you had a dash there, it would be.
No.
01301 dash and then these four.
Okay.
But this was a little just like a 128 Mountain Road. It's like a farmhouse in the middle of a farm that definitely doesn't look like where you would be having...
No elephants there.
Oh, wait a minute. I must have put something wrong, and that's a different house than what I saw yesterday. See, whenever you do this stuff on the fly, Charles, it's like performing without a net, and it can be quite tricky. What was it? Was it 128 Mountain Road? Because that brought me right to an address yesterday. Elephants Without Borders. Oh, sorry, it was 128 Mountain Road, Greenfield, Massachusetts.
What about the other one we were looking at? It was Driftwood, 8 Driftwood Lane?
Yeah, let's get that.
Was it 8 Driftwood Lane?
I don't remember. Get it right from here.
Whoa. The Somarella Trust? What's that? Go on. Close connections. Yeah. The Somarella Trust.
What is it?
I don't know.
We could Google that. Somarella Trust. Somarella Trust. It's in Botswana. You can trust it.
Okay, it's located in Kazangula.
Yeah.
18 employees across all its locations, generates 2.6 million in sales. Or for the hell of it, why don't you put in into Google, put in Somarella Trust and fraud. Okay.
Greyhound?
Well, that's a good thing.
What's this?
Doesn't seem, it shows an inappropriate. It's in some other language.
It's on Facebook. We don't know. That doesn't.
Well, well, let's just put Somarella Trust in without fraud and see what we get. But put it in quotes. Please.
Oops.
You're going to need to put it in front of the S, too.
Yeah. Working on that.
Okay.
Somarella Trust Company brings up Elephants Without Borders.
Okay, here. About us, registered in the deeds office of Botswana. So, again, this would appear. Let's hit that and just see what they're talking about here. What does it say? Yeah, is a nonprofit taxi in the Republic of Botswana registered in the deeds office as the Somarella Trust. In Botswana, it operates as Elephants Without Borders. So the question is, when did the Somarella Trust get formed, and which came first, the Somarella Trust or the egg?
Right.
And so again, when you operate these international things, you're supposed to set it up first in the U.S. and later internationally. And if this has been set up just to fund an international charity, it's a special type of charity, and I suspect they haven't disclosed this properly.
Isn't it also strange that he has another elephant charity that's got $19 that his name is on, that these other two people are on, that somehow I got misdirected to this yesterday? I didn't know anything about this.
Let's keep going down this page and see if they have any related party disclosures. Elephant Planet.
Public charity status.
Yeah, it's a 170B1A6 in theory, another one. See those, you get, look at this, here's the past, look at the trend. 2014, 106,000, then 90, then 58, then 30.
How does that
then
happen?
25. You suck.
But who's giving him $30 and $25? I mean, that just seems strange, doesn't it?
It does seem odd. And we don't see any related party disclosures yet.
What just happened? It stopped.
Is that it? That's it?
No, something's wrong with the mouse. I guess that's it. It won't go any further down.
Huh.
Yeah, it's a short page here, Schedule O. Weird shape.
All right.
Well, I will retrace my steps and figure out how I got those two things connected, but it seems like there's a lot of questions as to whether this $3 million from Disney or Meghan Markle ever went to these elephants. We've got this guy, Michael Chase, who's in all kinds of elephant things that don't look like they make a lot of sense.
Yeah, and again, there should be disclosures back and forth here, which don't seem to be there. And Meghan has gone around saying that she has ambitions to be president of the United States because, you know.
That's crazy.
Well, I don't know.
How can you be part of the British royal family and run for president of the United States? This country was created to do away with the British royal family.
I know. It's silliness. It's one of these things where, you know, some spoiled brat kid is told, oh, yes, you know, you could be anything you want to be. Well, I want to be president of the United States. Okay, you could do that. And she's got this big megaphone, and so she goes out and she says, I mean, she was pretty good, I thought, in Suits.
Did you know that she worked for the State Department?
As what? When Hillary was Secretary of State?
No. She worked in the some embassy for Argentina or something like that. She said it.
Oh, that makes it true.
I think it's been verified. I mean, why would she lie about that?
Why would a celebrity lie about her background?
Well, let's see. I think it was the Argentina embassy. Why has Meghan Markle not acknowledged her uncle, who is a former diplomat and who arranged for her internship at the American embassy in Argentina? That's not it. I saw it. Here's Business Insider. Do you trust them?
No.
I don't either. But it says 18 things that you didn't know. Yeah, she once interned for the U.S. Embassy in Argentina when she was 20. I think a 20-year-old would be
That's
quite
impressive.
an asset for the State Department in a foreign country. I mean, my question is...
I met in 2008 when I was exposing GE. I was invited to the interviews got so much air on Bloomberg that the host, Pim Fox, invited me and the two other leading stories of 2008 to dinner at not San Pietro, but the one across the street, the fancy Italian place that's out of business. I forget the name of it now. No, it's
Tulip.
Whatever. It was across the street. There were a bunch of them around the country. There was one in Palm Beach. And so I sat next to this girl who had been an intern for Cameron, Prime Minister Cameron. She was probably 20 or 21. And she, she certainly enjoed eating well and she's beautiful and in shape and stuff, but she drank like a fish. And but she was telling the story of her first day on the job. She was in heels that were too high and she came down the steps of, in some interior place at number 10 Downing Street, and she just went like head first into Prime Minister David Cameron and knocked him to the ground. The two of them went all the way down like
my
stairs,
God.
ass over tea kettle. So, I mean, that's probably what Meghan Markle was doing at the embassy there at Buenos Aires at age 20. I mean, come on, age 20? You're a kid.
I agree, but I mean, it's a little bit odd for her to be inserted into something like that and then marry the royal dude and then talk about running for president.
But if you contrast, one of these is not like the other. If you look at Meghan versus Hillary and Michelle, the two first wives, both of them occupied the White House for 8 years each. And so we're around, in that period when their husbands were president, we're around security issues and the need for security clearances and scandals, multiple scandals. And you would have thought that if they were careful with their lives, each of them, Hillary left the White House in her 50s, I think, and same with Michelle. So you have, as a woman, you have a long life expectancy. If you're 54, you have another 30 years life expectancy or whatever. You've got the credentials behind you. And if you wanted to really amp up a charity, you would have thought they would have been damn careful. Not Hillary, as we're going to show you in a second, and certainly not Michelle, as we showed you in the past. Their attitude is, these charities are grift engines. We're going to turbocharge our lifestyles here. We'll let Iger's Disney claim that it gave $3 million to the charity. And that's a grift thing for Disney. I mean, you say you gave them $3 million, but you only give them $500,000,
or
and
zero.
They declare 30. Yeah,
right. $30. Well, look at this. This is from March of this year. Last year. Meghan Markle is reportedly already networking with senior Democrats to help her ambitions to become the first female U.S. president. The Duchess of Sussex previously told friends about her political ambitions and now hopes her blockbuster Oprah Winfrey interview will strengthen support in the U.S. So, I mean, what is that?
Smoking dope. I mean, there's no way. There's no fucking way she's going to be president of the United States.
I agree, but what I observe is that, there's things that they do as far as these... There's a wardrobe malfunction for Miley Cyrus. Oh well. But there's things that they do as far as, sort of seeding the ground with these media campaigns. And when you look at Andrew Cuomo, you look at Meghan Markle, I'm interested in knowing who are the people behind these campaigns? What is it that they're doing to make this happen? There's been a lot of discussion about what the Prince of Nothing, Harry, what's his name, says about internet activities surrounding his wife. They say that it's these dedicated accounts that are, bots or whatever, trying to hate her. I think people just don't like her and want to be on Twitter about it.
Yeah, I mean, we've tried all kinds of things for President of the United States, right? We tried Curious George Bush. That didn't work so well, right? If you
we have a house plant now.
No, but if you go back to Curious George Bush and you think honestly about that election where Hillary kept on saying he was selected, not elected, and it's true. I mean, he became president of the United States.
Somebody's already done it.
Yeah, Furious.
Oh, Furious George. Yeah.
And I really wanted the dude to do a good job. And I foolishly was prepared. I thought that the Iraq War actually made sense for a strange reason. I thought if you want to have, back at the time, if you wanted to have a UN, which was in theory useful in the sense that the UN could fight, we could transition towards a UN taking the responsibilities for global peace in theory, if it were not a hopelessly corrupt organization in the cesspool. And the theory for enforcing the various UN resolutions against Iraq, there were multiple. Saddam Hussein had broken the ceasefire multiple times and had been given all kinds of warnings. You've got to stop this. There are going to be consequences. And he just thumbed his nose at the international coalition. And at the time, I thought, just teach this motherfucker a lesson. You can't sign the ceasefire and then abrogate it 19 different times and think you're going to get away with it. So for that reason, then I was in favor of it. But in hindsight, it was a stupid thing to be in favor of, and I'll admit that. But you look back at the period, I mean, whether he, from beginning to end, Shrub was a disaster. I mean, he was just...
Shrub is Bush.
He was a
the junior Bush.
He was a disaster.
Good. Terrible.
Domestically and internationally, and now he's cozying up to the Clintons.
Charles, he's the kind of guy you sit down to meet him in 5 seconds. You're like, this guy's a moron.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say who it is, but the person on Harkin Energy who put it together was a very smart guy, actually, business-wise and also academically smart. He entertained me down in the Bahamas many times, and he said, look, you want to go against George W. Bush for corruption at Harkin Energy. He would sit in the board meeting and would not understand what we were talking about. And when the time came, there was a big Bahrain concession that this tiny Harkin Energy got the right to drill offshore Bahrain, which is, really attached to Saudi Arabia, but a separate country. And Bush... everyone said they shouldn't have gotten it, that a big oil company should have gotten it. And Bush voted against it. According to this guy, who was the main shareholder in Harkin, Bush voted against it. He was not in favor of the thing that they're accusing him of being. Anyway, the guy is a disaster. And, I would argue, I mean, at the end, when he was running, when he was finished in 2008, the financial system literally nearly melted down under his watch. I mean, literally came within an inch, a millimeter of just gone. Yeah. All stock markets gone.
And what's going to happen now with Joe Biden? He's not even a year in, approaching 1 year.
Yeah. But I did promise that I wanted to take people a little bit through a new nuance on the Clinton Foundation. So if we go, let's get back to that New York State charity site, and let's also go to a more interesting one, the Massachusetts AG one. Let's have them both up there.
How do I find that Massachusetts one again?
Just Massachusetts AG charity search.
There it is.
Okay. So if you put in here Clinton Health Access, now this is an interesting site. And when I originally was doing this research, I didn't have the ability to get TIF files, but this only produces TIF files. So you have the ability to get them.
Yeah.
So we see here, we go down the page. For some reason, there's no 2020 yet, but go all the way down. This thing was set up in 2009. What the hell does it have articles and bylaws in 2008 if it was set up in 2009? And we go to the 186 KB hit view and look at it. And I believe, okay, keep going. I think it goes, this may be it, or we'll have to go with the other one.
What are we looking
Go
for?
to the very bottom. This may not be, okay, this is the one, these bylaws were not adopted until February 10th, 2009, but let's go to the other one. And I think it's the other one that has 133.6, may have something of interest.
It's got a big seal on it.
Yeah, fancy.
The state of Arkansas.
Yeah. Keep going, the very end. Maybe it doesn't have. Okay, it doesn't have what I was looking for. Let's go back into the index. Let's go into Clinton. Instead of putting Clinton Health, put Clinton Foundation HIV. And let's look and see what they have. Yeah. Here we have the 990, which is useful. Let's look at, let's start with 37.1. Let's see what that is.
This?
Yeah. Let's go to each of the four things. Okay, let's go to the next one. I'm looking for, there's a document that's an organizational, it's a minute of the organization. That's not it. Let's go to 1014. That's not it. And finally 3097. It used to be,
No?
Let's go to the bottom. No, okay, let's go back into the index. All right. Articles, bylaws. Or let's try,
What about that?
no, let's do 68. Okay. Okay, here are the articles for this thing. Let's go to the other one.
Has it changed since the last time?
Yeah, let's go all the way down here. Yeah, there. Okay. Here we have, this is, you see, you really have to look hard for this, right?
Yes.
So here's the minute of the first meeting of Incorporator and Board of Directors, which was held on the 23rd of March 2004. Okay, the Incorporator is Bruce Lindsay. Okay, this thing, there was no authority for Bruce Lindsay to incorporate a subsidiary of the Clinton Foundation on March 23rd, 2004 to do this work. And here we have the type of minutes of an organizational meeting that you should have for the Clinton Foundation, but we don't. And you should have for the Clinton Health Access, and you don't. And the Alliance for Healthier Generation, and you don't. And it talks about how they've created these articles of incorporation. Here are the initial directors and their term. The incorporator resigns. Magaziner and this Lynn Margerio.
Is that important that the guy resigned?
Yeah. And then the bylaws are adopted. And here is signed thing saying a bank is an unnamed bank.
Wow.
This is the first trick, right? You set up something that sounds like it exists, and then you have a bank account. Now you have the ability to wash money. The second you can open a bank account in the name of a charity, you can tell people, why don't you send $3 million from Disney to my bank account?
Where'd the money go?
I
don't know.
Don't ask. Okay, so this is interestingly, this document is sort of at the very back of a pile of documents. And Ira Magaziner is really sloppy. He's sloppy as fuck. If you look through all of his various filings, his signature is sloppy, the way he handles business is sloppy. He's running this thing in the same office as SJS Advisors, a for-profit thing. You shouldn't do that.
That house in Massachusetts that I went to.
Exactly. So here's something that was set up March 23rd, 2004 as a subsidiary of the Clinton Foundation. And it doesn't say here, I don't think it says, I think it says the only member in the articles is the William J. Clinton Presidential Foundation. If we go back into the index, let's look at the articles again. Yeah. Yeah. Incorporator, membership, yeah. At the very bottom, it says, the members shall be the William J. Clinton Presidential Foundation. So it's very useful. If that's going to be the only member, that thing should still exist, right? Because if it doesn't exist, if it changes its name, you're going to have to change the Articles of Incorporation for Clinton Foundation HIV/AIDS Initiative, okay? So now let's go into New York, and punch in 31158.
Oops.
0204, yeah. Okay. Search. Let's hit the Articles of Incorporation, Certificate of Incorporation probably. Yeah, Certificate of Incorporation.
There it is.
Okay, and here you see, this is one
Went down to Georgia, Charles.
Yeah, he's a musician as well as. On the 13th day of June 2005, so after the Clinton Foundation HIV/AIDS Initiative. And so this is filed on the 28th of April 2005 at 2:20 p.m. They say they amended on April 25th, 2005 in Little Rock. They amended the Clinton Foundation presidential thing, and what do? Actually, you have to go further up. It says here, further up. Okay, the name of the organization shall be the William J. Clinton Foundation. Now, we have talked in the past that with the IRS at least, when you make an amendment, you are required to provide what's called a conformed copy of the Articles of Incorporation. You can't just put this in. This just shows that Article 1 has been changed, and we've talked in the past that the original statements of the Articles of Incorporation say the name of the corporation, and then they define it as uppercase corporation, is the William J. Clinton Presidential Foundation. By this amendment, you're gutting the Articles of Incorporation because you don't have the defined term corporation any longer in the document, and all references to corporation are not defined, and therefore the thing is wrong. And this is a kind of sloppy error. But let's stay up in the clouds and not down in the weeds. Is April 25th, 2005 before June 30th, 2005?
It is.
It is, okay. Is it before September 23rd, 2005?
It is.
Okay. So what is the name here in the document of the entity?
The William J. Clinton Foundation.
And so what is a standard trick we've discussed in the past when you have one entity, the William J. Clinton Presidential Foundation, now you got another thing, the William J. Clinton Foundation, you set up all these bank accounts, and you get a stupid accounting firm like BKD and an idiot like Ernie Skirmy, who was your
Tiger
lead
stand-in.
audit guy, and you say to Ernie, listen, the Skirmster, you want to be a partner at BKD? Don't ask any questions about these complicated. Don't ask to see the bank statement for the William J. Clinton Presidential Foundation or the bank statements for the Clinton Foundation HIV/AIDS Initiative or our subsidiary in Uganda or subsidiary in South Africa. Just don't, or India. You don't want any of that, right? These droids cannot be seen or whatever.
These are not the droids you're looking for.
These are not the droids you're looking
Close.
for. So let's go back into Massachusetts and let's look at the quality of BKD's work for 2004. So we go into Massachusetts.
This one?
That's back, and let's put in you can just put in here 31-1580204. Okay. So let's go to the videotape, as it were, and we hit this one, the blue thing. Let's go down the page. There are lots of filings. Whoops. That's good.
No, I screwed up something over here. Sorry. There's a lot of things I'm trying to do at once.
You're multitasking, Jason.
Always, Charles.
All right.
Okay, where do we want to be on this?
Go down the page. We're looking for the audit for 2004.
Oh.
Okay, so there, slowly, as they say in
Here.
Swahili, pole, tafadali. That's 2003.
Here.
Here it is. Hit view. Okay, and this is a masterpiece in a fucked up audit. Okay, we start here. What is the name of this entity?
Oh, it's the William J. Clinton Presidential
No, I don't see
Foundation.
any V. Do you?
Oh, William J. Clinton Presidential Foundation. So they've added that.
comma Inc.
Oh, right.
So this is a third name. The real name of it is the William J. Clinton Presidential Foundation. And this thing, now we'll have to see the date, maybe it's before April 23rd, 2005. You know, this is financial statements for December 23rd, 2004.
Yeah.
Maybe they finished them before they changed the name. Or maybe they just slap any old fucking name they want on the cover of the thing. Well, they want to put the EWB on this for all we know. So here's the table of contents, or the contents. What is when you're involved in finance, you learn to look for the stuff that's not there. And you wouldn't know that unless you have some training in finance. So I look at this and I say, this is, as they say in Ireland, this is a bollocks. This is bullshit. You have statements of financial position, okay? You have statements of activities. There is no cash flow statement. And the reason there's no cash flow statement, as I'm going to demonstrate, is because they stole between $36 and $72 million out of this company in 2004. And the way you would track that is if you had a cash flow statement. Okay, so what we're going to do here, we don't want them to find the fraud, so let's definitely not put a cash flow statement, because that would obviously allow somebody to find the fraud. Now, one of the first things I learned in business school is how to create a cash flow statement from income statements and a balance sheet. So it's not like by not putting it in, you're really hiding it. I mean, somebody like me could say, well, wait a minute, they didn't want to do it. They should have done it. Chances are they're not doing it for a bad reason. And by the way, if we go back a page to here, if this were a real audit, okay, what it would say, this would not say independent accountant's report.
Well, it wouldn't say BKD on it.
Exactly. It would say consolidated. It would say audit of consolidated financial statements prepared on a GAAP basis, generally accepted accounting principles in the United States. Modified cash basis accounting is the kind of stuff that the mafia uses. I mean, it's not appropriate to use for a charity that's out there getting multi-year pledges, engaged in construction over long time periods where you have accrued expenses and you have accrued liabilities. You absolutely cannot account for a construction project this way. It is reckless in the extreme to do it. And it's even more reckless for the accounting firm BKD to say, yeah, okay, I'll do this, Chief. Put me in, Coach, I'll do it. So the entity, you notice, there is no, the only one I know of that is similar to this is Solomon Brothers Inc. had no period, but generally you have an Inc. period.
Yeah.
Right? If it's do they have that on the preceding page?
That's
or is this the first page? Let's see the next page. Yeah, no period after Inc. That's odd. And here there's a period after it.
That's a bad typo for an audit, right?
Right.
Again, this is
but mistakes. You see, if what you're trying to do is have a bunch of crooked financial statements, you have one bank account in New York and one in California. So one has Inc. with no period, one has it with the period. This is exactly how you create a master shell game. So we go to the next, let's go down to some financial statements and have fun with them.
It's really weird the way this document behaves.
All right, and let's hit this one and see, was this created?
There.
Okay, was this thing issued before or after April 23rd, 2005, El Jefe?
It was after, it was in June.
Are you sure?
I mean...
We aren't sure, actually, because we don't know that it was actually issued
what's
this day.
This?
But the other thing,
What's that say? Is that a date?
1906.
06.
That's the Attorney General's office. That's when it was received in the Attorney
Right.
General's office. But the point is, there was no entity called William J. Clinton Presidential Foundation, Inc. on June 30th, 2005, but the mighty Ernie Skirmy and his team of dwarfs. I got nothing against
Is Ernie
dwarfs.
Skirmy part of BKD?
He was, yeah.
We haven't had this graphic in a while, Charles, but it seems appropriate to bring it back. The Tiger accounting of did Eric Hansen leave BKD?
I think he might have, yeah. But I want to drill down here and
Yes,
really
sorry.
nail the financial statement. So we're back in the financial statements, hopefully, somehow.
Ernie Skirmy, where were we? Oh, no, we were looking at this.
Yeah, all right, let's look at the next page. Just hit this one.
It really doesn't behave normally. There we
Okay,
go.
so we look here and we see the cash went down, investments went up, property, plant, and equipment went up, notes payable went up, current maturities went up, long-term debt went up, and net assets, which is the same as net income, went up a little bit, all right? So we go to the next page. And here we see that in 2004, the entity had $56.2 million worth of what they call program service expenses, okay? Let's go to the second to last page, or the last page, actually. Yeah, that. There they break down the 56.2. And we see that grants and transfers to the National Archives are $43.5 million, okay? So the way this works, and this is getting a little bit into the weeds, so I promise I won't waste too much time on it. You see down here this item, depreciation. Depreciation is an estimate of the amount by which a fixed asset like a factory or a building declines in value. Accepted theory is that if a building has a useful life of 30 years, then it depreciates 1/30 of its stated value each year. And you're able to reduce your taxable income by this non-cash charge depreciation. You're not writing a check for depreciation, but the IRS says you can reduce your income by 1/30 of the value of a business each year. Similarly, if you write a check to the National Archives for $36 million, the value of the space that is being used by the National Archives for the Clinton Foundation, well, that's a cash expense. So you would say, all right, I'm out $36 million. I wrote a check. I'll look at my bank account, cash out the window. That's not what these idiots did. They signed an agreement, which we haven't actually seen yet. We have a joint use and operating agreement with the National Archives, but we haven't seen the lease, the modified lease.
Are we supposed
Or
to
the
be able
license.
to see it?
We should be able to see that, and it has not come to light yet. $36 million,
It's a lot.
right, should be added back in the cash flow statement to show that you say you spent $36 million, but it wasn't cash, so your cash account is not hurt by $36 million. So let's go back to the income statement of activities.
Where was that?
It's like the page 6, maybe. Yeah, there it is.
Activities.
Okay. Here we see, this increase in net assets, they say it's 1.4 million. It should be, the cash should be increased by 36 million. So it's really 37.4 million is your cash flow. Right? So when we go to the preceding page to this, cash goes down from 6.9 to 3.5. In reality, it should have gone up by 36 million.
So they're stealing 36 million.
36 million minimum.
Wow.
And then they have, if we go to the footnote for this, you'll see further down here, slowly, up here. Okay, this is a very significant disclosure. Okay, this says that in 2003, my net asset, my gross property was primarily construction in progress. So you're familiar, for example, you have website development project you were working on, and you're writing, we won't say how much money, but you're writing, let's say $70.6 million to develop your website. But let's just say that's the number.
They screwed it up.
Right. Until that thing has got the equivalent in construction, it's a certificate of occupancy. Somebody's gone in and said, this isn't a pile.
This isn't a working building.
This is an actual building. The heat works, the air
Not a
conditioning works.
construction
You
site.
can lock the door,
Right.
the windows close, the floors are not falling. There's no hole in the floor. There's no hole in the roof. Somebody has looked at the building and said, this is a straight up real building. Okay? So they, at the end of 2003, they said they had 70.6 million of costs in progress to build this complex. By 2004, the 70.6 turns into 114 million of a building and fixtures. And there should ordinarily be an independent third party that actually blesses that says, okay, we are going to, you can't just say the building is worth 114 million. You got to bring in an outside appraiser
and stuff.
with no conflicts, who can look in and say, yeah, this thing is really worth whatever you say it's worth. The reality is that to make the books and records balance in 2004, and the reason you don't want the cash flow statement, they just added in 36 million bucks here.
That's pretty good.
Well, you have 36 million of cash missing, right? It's missing from the cash account. You got to put, to make it balance, you got to put it in somewhere. So you put it into the buildings and fixtures account. And that's the first level of fraud, is you steal 36 million. The next level of fraud is, wait a minute, if I didn't add 36 million to the construction, that's another 36 million I stole. So I stole $72 million on this balance sheet. Now let's go look at the balance sheet again on page 6. So steal 72 million, the rough rule of thumb, there's no, keep going back, there's no standard, one page before. There we go. Okay, there's no firm rule about how much constitutes a material error, right? There's no guidance that says material means 5% or 10%. But a working approach, if we go down here, the measure that most people, when they determine if an error is material, they look at the net assets of the entities. So in this case, in the start of the year, it was 78.9 million. At the end of the year, it was 80.3 million. If you're stealing $72 million out of a balance sheet that's 78.9,
seems substantial.
That's why you hired BKD, because they're never going to catch it, right?
It's
you
more
got
than
a
5%,
major fraud,
Charles.
major fraud, you hire BKD. Ernie Skirmy's your man. He will definitely miss the fraud. And why this is all extremely relevant in my experience, when I did the projects much smaller on my bigger house in upstate New York, I had a construction team, a big team. I had specialists. I had an elevator team. I had this team and that team, plumbing, electricity, landscaping, you name it, engineering. And I also had a special team to check all the bills.
Wow.
Right, to make sure that I wasn't
stealing money.
Exactly, that I wasn't being ripped off. And it can be an honest mistake. I mean, if a construction firm goes and they put in an order for $100,000 worth of lumber, right? That's a lot of lumber even today. And it gets delivered to the site, and maybe some of the boards are warped and you want to send it back, and maybe that's not the right type of lumber. So to check all this, it's a lot for one team to do it, and then what if they make a mistake and you have another team? So you can have mistakes, but
not for $72 million.
But nearly 100% the value of the net worth. Then that tends to fall in a place where the construction company, the CDI, remember, it was the construction firm, and John Glasgow, who was the CFO, who disappeared under mysterious circumstances. Typically, you have the client, the Clinton Foundation, and you have the construction firm. And if there's a debate about what happened to, how much is this thing really worth, there's a billing dispute, this is the largest construction project back in 2004 in Little Rock. I mean, it wasn't like putting up, a double-wide trailer for Mike Huckabee to live in. It was, which he actually did live in when they were renovating the State House. Yeah, this isn't about, carting a double-wide to the site. This is a lot of work. And if there is a vexing set of issues, including, that the client didn't exist around the world the way it was supposed to, and the client had violated its lease with the city of Little Rock, and the client had violated its joint use agreement, and therefore the contractor would say, "No, wait a minute, you're in violation of all these agreements. I got bonding to say that I was responsibly behaving as I put the site up. I can't be responsibly behaving for a construction for an entity that doesn't exist lawfully, and I'm going against you. I mean, I'm going to sue you. When I want to be paid in full, I want bonus payments, I want penalty payments, I want interest, I want this and that." You can imagine that the discussion between CDI and John Glasgow and the Clinton Foundation was rugged, particularly in this period where they're trying to pretend that they have the Clinton Foundation HIV/AIDS initiative. They're trying to pretend that that thing has been lawfully authorized by the IRS when it wasn't. They're trying to pretend they merged when they hadn't. They're trying to pretend in front of Unitaid. They're trying to get hundreds of millions of dollars of grants for an entity that doesn't exist at a time when Hillary's trying to run for president and needs cake to fend off Barack Obama and other comers in 2007 and 8. So this is a period where these books of records should matter a lot. And remember that in November 16th, I think 2008, they craft this MOU while John Glasgow is still alive, saying, was he still alive actually then? He wasn't alive, and he'd died in January of 2008. But after he had died in January 2008, they try to craft this MOU saying everything's hunky-dory with the Clinton Foundation, when it's not. So, we could say this is accounting minutia, but at surface level, the evidence that they have put into the public domain and that remains in the public domain, remember, we pulled this audit off of Massachusetts, shows that this thing is a complete mess. Now let's go back and see the 990 for 2004. What name did they use? Because they changed the name April 23rd, 2005. Let's go back into the index here in Massachusetts. That's New York. Yeah, and let's look at the 2004 990, which is right here. Okay, and let's look at this is tough, Jason. We're going to look at the first page, and this is, what name did they use? Line C.
Let's just get the line C. William J. Clinton Presidential Foundation. No ink, no period.
All right, and let's look down the page and see what's the date of this thing. Is it before or after April 23rd, 2005?
Oops, where is the date?
It's at the very bottom of the preceding page. Of that, oh, there you go.
9/23/2005.
Is that before or after April 23rd, 2005?
It's well after.
All right, so you're sitting there as Skip Rutherford, who signs this document, the president of an entity which would then be called the William J. Clinton Foundation, and let's put the wrong name in. Let's put a different name in. Why not? What does it matter? We're just putting this into the IRS. I mean, why would they care? So let's now go back into Massachusetts, and as my kids used to say when they were very young, for shits and giggles, let's put in Clinton Foundation HIV/AIDS Initiative into the name. You're just Clinton Foundation HIV.
Well, wouldn't anything Clinton Foundation get us there?
HIV. No, because you're going to get the main one. All right, so hit that. Go to the 2004 990, which is at the bottom. Okay. Now, Jason.
Yeah.
What date was this filed?
This one appears to have been filed.
October 6th, 2005.
2005, yeah.
Now scroll down and see, they make mention to a related party. Let's see what the name of the related party.
This?
No, keep going. It's several pages later. No, keep going. That page.
This one?
Yep. There we go.
William J. Clinton Presidential Foundation.
This is October 6th, 2005. They're still calling this thing by a name other than its real legal name. This in a filing for Clinton Foundation HIV/AIDS initiative, which doesn't actually technically exist either.
Okay.
All right?
What do you want me to do?
Well, I just think we want to admit that the Clinton Foundation
I admit it.
was a complete disaster back in 2004 when it was being investigated by the Federal Department of, we don't investigate anything.
Yeah.
And you know, you look here, list the number of employees employed in the pay period that includes March 12th, 2004, none. Right, this is Clinton Foundation HIV/AIDS initiative. Let's go into Google. Put in quotes, Clinton Foundation HIV/AIDS initiative. You've got it, the spelling slightly off. And put in January 2004. Okay, let's hit this one. Okay, this is a press release in January 14th, 2004, i.e. before the Clinton Foundation HIV/AIDS initiative came into existence. bioMérieux is a very big French company. Here they're bragging about that they have, keep going down the page, inspired by Louis Pasteur.
Oh.
Here, in 2003, the Clinton Foundation contacted us to present their ambitious HIV/AIDS initiative that didn't exist. But we being French, it's like, we give a fuck nut. We don't care. Right? The Clinton Foundation we will do our utmost best, as opposed to our utmost, to contribute to the accomplishment and challenging Clinton Foundation HIV/AIDS initiative. I mean, what are you talking about? There's no such thing. Right? We go back let's go back to the index for this. No, to Google.
Oh.
Yeah. Press release about the Clinton Foundation HIV/AIDS initiative. Let's see what date that is. Okay. Oh, that's 11. Oh, that's an old.
January 11th, 2006.
But here he talks about in October 2003 and January 2004, President Clinton announced agreements. Okay.
Lowering the prices.
How did he do that? There was no such thing as the Clinton Foundation HIV/AIDS initiative. Because this goes really to the first Cheaters Club. I mean, that you have a former president and people say, okay, he's the former president of the United States. He's got people around him who check things.
Yeah,
he's got
do
an
what he
office
says.
in Harlem, and
Must know something.
And he was a popular dude, and he was impeached but not convicted.
He can play the saxophone. How could this go wrong?
Yeah. So of course, I mean, give him the benefit of the doubt. He's trying to do good.
He's probably got an 8-ball in the car. Let's do this.
Exactly. And so the former presidents, like celebrities, like first wives, like others who are in the public eye, get the benefit of the doubt. And even when they fuck up, people say, well, it was for a good cause. He was trying to cure AIDS.
I think that most people, Charles, when you get around somebody that important, there's like this nervousness. They describe it as being starstruck, right? So if you're at some party where you get to meet Bill Clinton, and he's like, oh, well, let me tell you something important. You're doing real well with this Crowdsource the Truth. Why don't you give $1 million to the Clinton Foundation? You're like, wow, Bill Clinton wants to be in business with me.
Hey, that's what you say. I already gave you 100.
Whatever, yeah.
I had a great letter from you. Here's the letter. That's not my signature. Well, really.
Ira Magaziner got a new barbecue grill at his house.
But seriously, it's easy to see. I mean, and we will be laying this out in copious detail, hoping that Hillary is going to run again. But we will lay this out so future generations can see just how egregious all these filings are. It's like at the bottom of every IRS filing involving a charity, it says, under penalties of perjury, I hereby, affirm, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, but lawyers don't
John Hancock down there. I mean,
lawyers don't care about that. I have gotten pleadings signed by people lying about me like crazy.
Right. Well, that there needs. I mean, people talk about in the financial services industry that the bankers all want to police themselves, and that doesn't work, and the SEC is not strong enough. The one area of life that is not policed the way it should be is the legal profession. I mean, you should...
Absolutely.
When you lie under oath as a lawyer...
You should lose your law license
rotisserie, forever. Right to the game, right?
Yes.
You go right into the, Michael Cohen.
Yeah.
Medium rare, burnt to a crisp.
Sous vide, it is. It's 120 degrees for the next 4 hours.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, you got to set an example, because... lawyers, all it takes is one crooked lawyer. And by the time, look at the Clinton Foundation, it's been operating illegally since before probably, but certainly since October 23rd, 1997.
You should put a sign up front, how it always says, like, established 2003, right. Operating illegally since 2004.
Brazenly outside the law.
Tape the first stolen dollar above the register. Like a pizza place.
Yeah. And you would have also thought that the way, if people were sensible, like if the IRS wanted to reduce the burden of checking these forms, they would have a scare the living shit out of you session with the first lady and the first family of every president. They'd say, no doubt you're going to want to set up a presidential foundation. Let us explain to you the following ways in which you can fuck this up.
Yeah.
All right, you're not supposed to be, as President of the United States, you're not supposed to be soliciting the King of Saudi Arabia for money for your presidential foundation after you leave, because you're the President of the United States, and we don't necessarily like everything that the Saudis are doing, and that's why they bribe us.
Yes.
Right? And similarly with other countries. So you should be able to sit down, you take, whoever's going to be the architect of the Obama post-presidency and the Trump post-presidency, that person needs to have money so that if they fuck up, it'll hurt when we take it away from them. And that team that's going to put these presidential libraries together needs to be educated, needs to be told, look, these are the pitfalls. This is how presidential libraries are used to launder money, to bribe outgoing presidents and their families, to bribe dynastic political families. And that's why you need real controls, a real auditor. You cannot take money from the mafia and from these foreign grifters. You just can't do it.
There's one other important control that should be there. We shouldn't have dynastic political families. There should be an Anti-monarchy Act that starts out by saying the United States of America was created to break away from a monarchy, not to create a new flavor of it. And if someone becomes president,
or senator,
there should be, or senator or whatever, but they should, certainly president, it should say, okay, your wife or husband can't run, your immediate son or daughter can't run, your brother can't run, your sister can't run. They got to define who cannot be president.
What about my love child?
I mean, well, I'm glad you brought that up, because we've got a new contingency of British viewers, and they have put my attention on Meghan and Harry, and also have said that this guy, Major Hewitt, is purported to be...
He looks a lot more like Harry's potential father than Prince Charles.
The hair.
Everything.
Everything, yes. His complexion, his hair. He looks like him. So that's interesting.
Yeah, I told you, I think it was the Hyde Park Hotel, or maybe it was an...
But I think in England, the love child cannot be king.
I stood next to Princess Diana, as far away as you and I are, for about 10 minutes.
What did she say to you?
Nothing. I just didn't want to even engage her in conversation. I was waiting for something, and she was waiting for something. But the one thing I remember about her is she seemed to have gigantic feet.
Wow.
I mean, she's tall, but she had big feet. But yeah, I mean, look, the love life of royals, the love life of anybody, but the love life of the British royal family is, to say the least, complex.
Right. Well, I don't know. He definitely, this is something that I haven't really thoroughly evaluated, but I must agree, he sure looks like that guy, the shape of his nose and everything. If they were black, it would be racist for me to say this, but...
The nose is virtually identical.
I mean, this looks like his dad, doesn't it? The chin, the shape of his face,
You
his
can imagine,
eyes.
like, the truth comes out, and it's like, Meghan, not only are you not going to be president of the United States, you're not actually ever going to be in the royal family because,
right.
you know.
So they were potentially, but I mean, isn't Harry in England kind of considered the redheaded stepchild?
I think so.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if they're trying to make fun of the guy, but I mean, you know, boy, what a twisted scenario they've got going on there. Well, Charles, we've covered a lot of material today. We didn't get too much into the Obama scandals, but we have spoken about that recently, and we will be speaking about it more. I feel like it's getting more and more sophisticated as it goes on, and that the Obama Foundation is already like supercharging its way past the Clintons.
The Obama Foundation, to me, it's really rich to say, to fill the paperwork out and say, you know, we're going to be a presidential library and we're going to hold presidential records. And they're like, whoops, no, we're not. You know, but we're just going to continue and do whatever we want.
They're going to drop presidential records. It's Barack Obama's new hip hop studio.
Right. And if we think about the degree, you know, we go back to, say, September 10th, 2001, and we think about what is different in January 2nd, 2022 from September 10th, 2001.
So much worse.
You have tech overlords who can disappear the President of the United States off Twitter, who can disappear Robert Malone off YouTube, and anybody who questions the Branch Covidians and others. You could just decimate your opponents. This is before it extends into financial tyranny, which I think could happen in 2022, where they take the additional step of saying, you know, forget being kicked out of Twitter and Facebook and all that. In addition, we're not going to allow you to have any banking ability. You can't have a checking account.
They did that to Laura.
You can't have a checking account. You can't have savings. We'll put a lien on your assets. And this is not a future that makes any sense. It's not a present that makes any sense. And you know, we have the spectacle of the Facebook people saying, you know, we've created Facebook fact checkers. And then it's, never mind, these are just opinions. I mean, they're either facts or they're opinions. And to let a whole bunch of scruffies somewhere in California check what they choose to check, and to also let Zuckerberg spend $400 million trying to influence the election in 2020.
But wait. On the fact checkers, Charles, there's some 26-year-old person who's trying to decide what gender they are, fact-checking an MD who invented this stuff. This is like me checking your balance sheet and having any useful input.
Or me checking, you know,
the 3D movie that I made and being like, there's a technical error here. Right. They have no qualification to fact check these things.
Right. And so it's a world, it's really a world gone mad where we have accepted, like the magic trick, we've accepted this idea that the tech oligarchs should be able to operate above national laws. I mean, you should be forced to say, look, not so fast. Apple cannot have a treaty with Ireland where it decides that it's
not pay taxes.
That it's an independent country. I mean, you can't do that.
Did Apple do that?
I think so. Yeah, you have either Apple or Google. So you should be forced. If you're a corporation, you have to pick one nation under which you agree to be bound by their laws, and that's it. And there needs to be a primary regulator. And if you're Apple or Google, a big company, you can't say, you know what I think I'll do? I want the government of Barbados to regulate me. I mean, you got to pick a serious country from the standpoint of having a regulatory apparatus and tax treaties and all this kind of stuff, so that it really can aspire to have the teeth to actually do any of that. So we don't have that. We have in the individual companies, whether it's the Microsofts or the big Amazons, we have tech titans. Then behind them, we have these venture capital firms that control a disproportionately large swath of the rising corporations around the world. There's no real effective oversight over any of that. Vast wealth is created, and then these people, their next move is to find Meghan Markle or some other idiot and donate appreciated tech stock into the Google Foundation or the Amazon Foundation or whatever, and now decide that, you know, you're not like every other taxpayer. You just write your checks and the government takes your money and you know, pays for the bills of the government. No. What you want to do is take your appreciated stock, get a huge tax deduction off your personal taxes so you don't pay taxes.
Right.
And then you will go forward and subsidize elephants without borders or cockroaches without apartments, or whatever, you name whatever the thing is.
That's a great charity, Charles. The cockroach community is underserved. Perhaps Meghan Markle could take up their interest. Well,
Rats without overcoats in the winter.
yeah, I mean, isn't it weird though that guy Chase is on the $19 elephant charity, and the other thing went down to $25? What's going on with that?
Again, this is the kind of stuff where once you agree to be on a charitable board, there should be training, and if you fuck up on a charity, you should go into the video game, and especially if it's an international charity.
Well, this thing was ticking all the boxes, which is why I wanted to bring it to your attention, because it just smelled a little funny to me.
We have the Orangutan International Charity. We've talked about that one. That's Norman
Is Joe
Lear.
Biden the chairman of that?
We could quickly do it.
I think we're a little bit out of time,
Okay.
but let's do the Orangutan Foundation next time. And you know what? It was really super overcast and looking like it was going to rain today, but it was like 55.
Well, that is global warming. It's obvious.
It's definitely strange, unseasonable weather, but Charles, it's been an excellent first episode of 2022. We forgot to talk about the stupid new mayor, Eric Adams, immediately re-upping the emergency, declaration and the vaccine passport mandate and all of that crap.
And in one of his first moves, being on the subway and calling in a street fight, off his... I don't have...
I kind of support that, though, calling 911.
Him being on the subway, I support as well.
And him being on the subway. But the thing is, why is it when I call 911, they say, well, wait an hour and somebody will show up and take a report that takes a week to file, and then nothing will happen? And then, so did anybody arrest those guys when Eric Adams called 911? So doesn't he have a better way to access the police than calling 911 if he's the mayor? That seems a little bit set up.
If he did it, I think it hats off to him, frankly, for the experience to not identify himself and see how he's treated.
I think I want to know more about that, Charles, because you know what? I am finding so many of the things that make their way into the news are hoaxes that are set up by PR companies. Earlier this week, I went over to that Sunshine Sax. We should tell people this story if you want.
Sure.
Sunshine Sax came to my attention from all this dust-up with Harry and Meghan and Bot Sentinel. And I believe, this is an allegation based on information and belief, that Bot Sentinel, which is a company that purports to detect inauthentic accounts, that appears to have been hired by a PR company, Sunshine Sax, to combat just a negative public image by creating tweets that, fight the people who are tweeting negative information about Meghan Markle, whether it's opinion, fact, or just incorrect. These are just Twitter trolls, professional Twitter trolls who are, putting out positive information about them or negative information about the people who are tweeting about them, and he's like a Twitter terrorist.
Well, on that, I think that you should not be allowed to tweet anonymously.
I agree.
If you're gonna be out there and do all this kind of stuff. But Sunshine Sax, that's the Sunshine marketing firm.
Yes.
That's the famed firm that back in, I think it was 1983, I was looking at buying an apartment in Madison Green, which is on the corner of 23rd and Broadway. And it was so-and-so Sunshine, I forget her name, this woman was in charge of marketing for the building. And right around there, I think the Triangle Shirtwaist Fire was either on the site of this building or nearby. And this is a building that then was 30 stories tall, and I was looking at buying 1 or 2 apartments on the top floor, and I was all ready to go. I had the paperwork there. I'm excited, my first thing. And for some reason, I thought to myself, what about the fire? What if there's a fire on the 30th floor? What am I going to do? And I asked this woman, I said, what, there's a big fire near here a long time ago. It was a tragedy. Do you have any special, approaches to dealing with fire in this building if there's a fire? And she looks at me with a straight face and says, oh, no, this building is fireproof. They're like, I'm leaving.
Yeah.
No sale. I wish I should have bought it, but
But it seems that the principal at Sunshine Sachs is this guy Ken Sunshine, which
it was a woman, actually. I don't know if he's
maybe
his wife.
something's happened since then. The wife,
Nancy Sunshine.
is that her name?
Well, Nancy Hollander Sunshine, yeah. Could be.
Maybe.
I could have this wrong. It could be a different Sunshine. There's lots of Sunshine. Harold Holzer.
Who's that?
Harold Holzer.
Who is Harold Holzer?
We'll see in a second. Did he go to Harvard?
This guy?
He's a scholar. Yeah, he went to Harvard with Clarissa.
Oh. Wait a minute.
Let's
what's this?
hit that for a second.
Sunshine, wait, before we do that, Sunshine from 1990 to 1993 served chief of staff to Mayor David Dinkins, a job that included managing the future New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio.
Man, oh my God.
Wow. Then he worked for Mario Cuomo's gubernatorial campaign as an advisor to Andrew
Look
Cuomo.
at his clients. Barbara Streisand.
Oh, all people that
Ron
are...
Brown.
What? Whoa.
John Thane of the $100,000
Wait a minute. People in England watching don't know that Ron Brown was
He's the one who took
killed
the
in a plane
he
crash.
took the train to the mountain.
Correct. With a bullet hole in the top of
Well,
his head.
and I have a friend, I won't say who it is, who was, Ron Brown had reached out to this person saying that he'd had enough of the corruption and he wanted to dish on what was really going on. And the next thing you know, he hits the side of a plane.
Well, I think he said that
Look who else
to
look at his clients have included.
Ben Affleck, Michael Jackson, Harvey Weinstein.
This guy knows how to pick them.
Well, we knew Harvey Weinstein because I put out a tweet the other day saying that when Harvey Weinstein says, I hired a sleazy PR firm to convince the world I'm not a dirtbag, Meghan Markle can say, me too. But, oh, look, he also he represented Justin Timberlake after the wardrobe malfunction. I actually saw a video, I forget where I was, but like some show that I never watched was on the TV, and I was waiting there, and it was the wardrobe guy who worked for Timberlake and Janet Jackson, and he said that this whole wardrobe malfunction like destroyed his career.
Really?
Yeah, because everyone was like, well, don't use that guy. Your boobs will fly out.
This is an odd sentence. As of 2009, 9/10 of his clients were not celebrities. Why would you put that in? 90%. I'm in the PR business trying to promote people, and 90% of the people who are my clients are not celebrities because I do such a great job.
Very weird. Very, very weird, Charles. But with that, I think we're basically tapped out for today. I want to thank everybody for making our first 2022 show great. I want to thank the viewer sponsors that make the show possible. Beginning of the year now is a great time for people to get onto subscribestar.com/crowdsource the truth and patreon.com/crowdsource the truth. People can access a huge library of sponsor exclusive content. I'm going to be doing more counter lawfare stuff. I'm going to be getting into the lawsuits and things like that. So please join me on subscribestar.com/crowdsource the truth and patreon.com/crowdsource the truth. Have a great evening, everybody. And will I be doing a show tomorrow? I got a couple things I'm working on tomorrow and Tuesday.
Football championship tomorrow, 8 p.m. You're going to be watching that.
Nah.
National championship.